Why is it so many mediocre ideas sell so easily while the potentially big game-changing ones are left to die on the vine? As I've journeyed through my career, I've been struck by how many in management often say the right things about creativity and innovation, but when time comes to make the tough decision, they regress back to behaviors that demonstrate they really don't value creative thinking or taking calculated risks that are so essential to any creative endeavor. Ideas are a paradox. On the one hand, they're extremely fragile, easily crushed and discarded. On the other hand, they're threatening. They have the power to scare the heck out of people in a room. They're kind of like eggs. Extremely fragile, easy to crush. You see, ideas aren't what they always appear to be. And if we mishandle them, we risk crushing them into oblivion. An idea might appear initially to represent X, but with time morph into Y, just like a seedling looks nothing like its mature sunflower. So if we pull the hair trigger in the beginning, we risk missing out on big opportunities that might just need a little bit of extra time or the right collection of brains around the table to crack the code. In this day and age where innovation and entrepreneurship rue the day, it's amazing how critical we can be of our ideas. An organization's ideas are one of its most valuable and tangible assets, and I believe they need to be treated better. We're here today to discuss the theme within and without, why we do what we do. And my key question is, why are we so judgmental of our precious ideas? I was fortunate to grow up in a creative family. My father was a creative director at some big New York City agencies, and his big claim to fame was writing the Oh What a Feeling campaign for Toyota back in the 80s, including the iconic Toyota Jump, which you see him demonstrating for you here in our driveway. Perhaps it was listening to his great advertising stories that I came to believe that creativity is infinitely abundant, easily channeled. There was this time back when I was in high school, I was watching TV in the family room, and all of a sudden my father came into the room and he said, "Hey, Tony, are there any songs, popular songs out there today that are about legs?" And I kind of looked at him cockeyed and thought about it, and I said, ZZ Top, She's Got Legs. Duh, Dad, come on, get with the program. And kind of scurried out of the room. And little did I know he was working on a new business pitch for Legs Pantyhose. And a couple months later, a new campaign broke featuring She's Got Legs as their theme song. So you see, creativity's easy, right? Ask a question, get an answer, get inspired, boom, you're done. Of course, it's not that easy, and I learned that the hard way by the time I found myself in an advertising job in New York City. Pretty early in my career, I was working on a cold medicine account, and we had just completed a major research project where we were looking for new insights and really talking to cold sufferers and understanding what they were really experiencing when they had a cold. So we completed the research study, and now we were at the point where we had to turn those insights into a new campaign. So on a hot summer day, we all gathered in a conference room, and it was a pretty diverse group, ranging from the most senior in the agency down to the most junior, which happened to be me at the time. And as you might kind of imagine what those kind of sessions are like, it was very kind of active and heated at times, but there was a great exchange of ideas and so forth. And as I listened, I got inspired. I had an epiphany, so I humbly raised my hand, and when I got the floor, I spoke up, and I said, "It seems to me all the ideas we're talking about are from the perspective of the cold sufferer. What if we flip that around and look through the perspective of the cold virus? When you do that, all of a sudden our brand becomes the cold's worst enemy. That might be a way to kind of differentiate ourselves, and the creative team might have some fun with that." Somebody said, I recall hearing, and then there was dead silence. A couple seconds, which felt like 60, until the senior-most strategy person in the room spoke up and essentially guillotined the idea. It died there and then on the spot, completely dismissed. Fast forward to that following winter, I was now working at another ad agency, not because of that experience. I had just moved on. And it was a weekend. I was driving in my car, had the radio on, and wouldn't you know it, a commercial for that cold brand came on. And they were using my idea, a personified cold virus running scared of the product. I was like, hey, that's my idea. I didn't say it out of anger or frustration. I was actually thrilled that it kind of came back to life. And therein lies a critical lesson. Although my idea hit the proverbial brick wall during that meeting, one of the creative teams present grabbed onto it. They kept it alive. They refined it. They got to know the idea, and they sold it. They got to know the idea before they completely judged it. And that's why I like to say no should always precede no. We should really get to know our ideas before we lay the final verdict. Which leads to another paradox about creativity. We all say we want creative ideas, but at the first sign of something risky and uncertain, they tend to scare us away. I'm sure we've all been in situations where this has happened, and it's happened to me throughout my career. And a few years ago, I was reading a book, and there was a chapter devoted to logic, the topic of logic. And as I was reading that chapter, an equation came into my consciousness. And after playing around with it a little bit, I believe it's an equation that actually explains this paradox, but more importantly, it explains why so many organizations and companies are struggling to create the creative environments that they so dearly want. I call the equation the idea climate equation. And an organization's idea climate is equal to creativity raised to the power of belief divided by logic raised to the power of doubt. Most organizations are addicted to logic, to process, to systems thinkings, all the things that create predictability and reliability and consistent earnings. The problem is too much left-brain thinking suffocates creativity. That's why it's in the denominator of the equation here. Author John Hunt, in his book, The Art of the Idea, it's a great book, I highly recommend it, warns that if logic is introduced too early into an idea, it often kills it. That's because it speaks with history on its side, and all its received knowledge can make anything new seem foolish and impractical. There's also a creative tension expressed in the equation between creativity and logic. It's a tension that's been around for a long time, and it's not going away. In centuries before, it was masqueraded as a debate between rationalism and romanticism. In the rational camp, they believe creativity came from a very intelligent, rational mind, whereas the romantics believed creativity was almost channeled through a divine source. It was very irrational. In fact, they believed rational thinking actually interfered with the creative process. If we dissect this a little bit more, the way I like to talk about the difference between creativity and logic is with creativity, we value looking at the world in a new way, whereas logical thinkers tend to value looking at the world in the same way, meaning newness for the creative types validates their success, where for the logical thinking, sameness is part of their success. Think of somebody, people that like to model stuff, taking data from the past to kind of, talk about the present and the future and validating that something's right. At the end of the day, creativity values the unknown, whereas logic values the known, and therein lies the tension. Any novel, truly novel idea that's thrown on the table that can't answer all the analytical, quantitative questions that are thrown at it are quickly, left to die. A lot of people, this tension, like I said, it's going to be around. It's not going away, so we have to embrace it. And our tendency is to avoid tension, right? So, but many believe, and there's a lot of research around this, that creative friction, creative tension is actually very valuable. Ideas can be built up through creative friction because of healthy debate and challenges. That's the kind of tension that we should embrace. Many seek security and comfort, but when we take comfort in what's worked in the past, we're only protecting the status quo, which can lead to stagnation. Another part of the equation is that very important, and I believe the most important are the exponents, belief and doubt. Belief is such a powerful catalyst. Belief can turn a person's job into a calling. Belief can help employees just want to organically solve problems and bring new ideas to the table. It's important for leaders to champion a vision and make employees believe. When leaders believe, their employees will believe. And when employees believe me, they'll storm the Bastille of ideas. Doubt is equally as powerful. A little bit of doubt leads to what John Hunt warned us about, where we dust off history, we pull any data we can to create a rational argument why an idea won't work. And doubters don't give up easily, right? They'll keep pressing their concerns until they suck all the oxygen out of the room and the idea suffocates. It's so easy to use logic and doubt to kill an idea, and that's why I believe belief should really be the foundation before the suits arrive with their spreadsheets. But the problem is you can't force or train belief, right? There's no belief 101 class. Which begs the question, what is belief anyway? Belief is just the absence of doubt. If you believe it, you will see it. If you believe it, you will see it. That's the mantra you should embed in your organization. It's far more optimistic and positive than what the doubters love to say, which is, I'll believe it when I see it. Another component of belief is balance, or the equation is balance. I'm not here to bash logic or doubt in any capacity, but at the end of the day, all four variables in that equation are important. They all are important at the right time and in the right doses. And I believe most companies are waking up. Most companies that have proclaimed we have to innovate or die realize that there's an imbalance in their organization and they're struggling with creativity. So what are they doing? They're bringing a lot of creative consultants, a lot of coaches, trainers, to help teach them how to be creative. And I'm not opposed to that, but I think some of it's a bit misplaced because at the end of the day, we are all born, we're all naturally creative. And it's beaten out of us by the time we get to our jobs. So another way of thinking about creativity is it's kind of like a turtle. When fear or threats are present, we tend to hunker down and seek shelter. So rather than try to coax creativity out from under its shell with a line of breadcrumbs, perhaps a better approach would be to identify and unlearn the behaviors that send it hiding in the first place. What tends to make it hide and run for shelter? Well, there's a lot of reasons because creativity is fickle. But let me share three big ones with you. And the first one I already kind of identified, and that's fear. The command and control leadership style is really outdated, and in the context of innovation, I believe it really doesn't have a place. Command and control, in my opinion, is really only useful today for real crisis situations. It's hard to rally your troops with a we must innovate or die approach when every time they come forward with a bold, novel idea, they're shamed or a little bit of fear is put into them. What are you, crazy? Bring another idea like that to me and you won't see your bonus. That stuff has to go away. At the end of the day, leaders have to create a safe and secure environment for people to share ideas and take risks. And view failure like Scott Cook does, who once said, it's only failure if we fail to get the learning. Another big cause is ego, the cause of all pain and suffering in the world. And I spell it with two egos because it deserves to be a four-letter word in my opinion. The problem with big egos is twofold. One, people will shut down sharing ideas because the big ego tends to take, to use logic and doubt to concoct whatever story is necessary to convince everybody their idea is better than everybody else's. And the other thing that happens is people stop sharing ideas because they don't want the big ego to claim credit as their own. The last area, and it's a big area, and I'll just touch on a couple points, is poor communication. Leaders sitting in idea receivership have to be very mindful of their oral and nonverbal communication. It takes guts to stand center stage and stick your neck out with a big, bold idea that disrupts the status quo or disrupts their cognitive map. It's not the time to look down at your email or roll your eyes, for God's sake. The greatest gift you can give somebody presenting an idea is to give them the gift of your full attention. Ideas are born, they're rarely born fully formed without flaw. What might seem brilliant to me might seem completely absurd to you. But one thing all ideas share is potential. Granted, some have more potential than others, but at the end of the day, they all have some level of opportunity, even if it's to inspire somebody else to come up with a better idea. This is important because the only way to access an idea's potential is to keep it alive long enough for a broader group of minds to shape it into a brilliant diamond. So how do we take the sparks of our ideas and fan them into flames? Well, unfortunately, there's no silver bullet answer. The best I can give you is any way you can. At the end of the day, it requires a spirit of whatever it takes. Do whatever it takes to get inspired and inspire those around you to solve those seemingly impossible problems. Make them believe they can do it. Do whatever it takes to connect the right people together to create a bigger collective brain. Do whatever it takes to understand what your consumers are really experiencing and feeling. Do whatever it takes to create the creative conditions for others to channel their creative genius and build an idea climate that respects both logical and creative thinking. Do whatever it takes to defend ideas, no matter how much you're outnumbered by the skeptics. Do whatever it takes to satisfy every constraint management throws at you until you've earned the green light for launch. Do whatever it takes to gain alignment and agreement so you can take a shot on goal. Do whatever it takes. When we do this, and we embrace our natural creativity, I believe we inch closer to feeling more fully human. And when we bask in the glory of our humanness, we'll feel fulfilled, more optimistic, and more hopeful. We might even gain clarity as to why we've been given a moment of time on earth. Perhaps it's to make a difference with our creative gifts. And that's why we need to give our ideas a chance. Thank you.